Welcome into Bet the Edge on this Labor Day Monday. Drew Dinsick and I'm Sarah Perlman with you. And the NFL season is just 3 days away. We're fired up. And today we're going to dig into the season opener on Thursday night between the Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're also going to be joined by John Daigle, who has an angle on multiple Week 1 games, including the Bears and Rams Sunday night on NBC. And we have Edge of the Day. All that coming up right here on Bet the Edge, powered by PointsBet.
Look, there's really no other way for me to say it. You're missing out. If you're not playing this, you're missing out. It's the free contests on the NBC Sports Predictor app. They've already handed out over $3 million in cash prizes, and there are tens of thousands more up for grabs this and every week. So get in on the action right now with the NBC Sports Predictor app powered by PointsBet.
And I cannot believe that kickoff from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida at 8:20 p.m. is just 3 days away, where Tampa Bay, Drew, is favored by now 7.5, the total up to 52 at PointsBet. And I'm just looking through, obviously seeing a little bit of line movement. But before we get into kind of how we're handicapping this game, Drew, essentially, what are the first few things you look at for a game happening just 3 days away to open the NFL season?
Well, there's a lot of moving parts, but you're absolutely right. This is a super exciting game, super exciting way to kick off the season. Notably, in my handicapping book, what I'm very interested to see, how much will the home field fan impact have on player performance here? Obviously, Tampa Bay is absolutely stacked on both sides of the football. They are the number one power rated team across all of my metrics as I try to come up with a fair rating on every team. A ton of that is because they are returning all starters from last year's Super Bowl winning run, on top of the fact that they have depth at multiple positions where it matters. This game in particular, I think their ability to attack the Cowboys through the air is going to be very apparent from Jump Street. The growth that we saw across the balance of the season for the Tampa Bay offense was very notable last year. They finally kind of had cohesion, had vision, and used the weapons that they have in the passing game, I thought, very effectively in their playoff run. And if they come out with those same sort of looks, that same sort of aggressive passing style, which I think Brady obviously has mastered to the degree we've never seen from an NFL quarterback, this is going to be pretty easy for them to put a lead on the Cowboys, at which point the cover of 7.5 is going to come down entirely to a backdoor, if you ask me. Now, Dallas in obvious passing situations with a deficit late in this game, it's going to matter a ton how well they can pass protect for Dak Prescott. Obviously, losing Zach Martin is going to be monumentally important.
Definitely.
He is the second most important player on this roster for the Dallas Cowboys by my numbers, just because of the thinness that they have at the offensive line and how their entire season came unwound last year because of injuries to the offensive line. So ultimately, I think Tampa Bay puts this one away. At 7.5, they make for a spectacular long teaser leg. Teasing that down to 1.5 is incredible.
That is exactly what I was just about to say. The 7.5, that's bold. The 7, if you got it without the hook, obviously a better play. But 7.5, still a great, as you said, a leg of a teaser. And that's exactly how I'm going to attack this one, because I did not grab the 7 and 7.5. I stay away because I think you kind of pointed out that has a backdoor cover written all over it. A few things that you said that stood out to me, Drew, was just the fact that Tom Brady had a full season with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It seemed that it got better with his weapons as the season went on. Now he had his first full off season with Bruce Arians and getting ready and used to their system. And that's where I think just getting the Rappaport again with his wide receivers is going to be huge. To your point, I think he's going to have a lot of success throughout the air. Another fun way to attack this, you could find 2.5 touchdowns, passing touchdowns for Tom Brady. I happen to like the over in this game. Dallas did allow the 5th most points in the NFL last season. Tampa Bay scored 3rd most points. Take it for what you want. The total has ticked up 51.5. We're now looking at 52 across the board. Maybe you want to tease that. If you want to do a same game teaser, which is a little bit risky, tease the total down if you like that other side, and then take the over. I happen to like the over in this game. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about Dak Prescott, though, fairly quickly here, coming off of those injuries, hasn't taken a game snap in 11 months. You mentioned Zach Martin, which is huge, being out, tested positive for COVID. How you think he does against this Tampa Bay defense, which, as we know, they are outstanding and one of the best defensive units, if not the best in the league.
Yeah, I think in general, the Tampa Bay defense plays aggressively, which actually should open up opportunities for Dallas in the passing game to attack over the top, but they are going to need superlative pass pro to do that. And realistically, as we get into the late stages of this game, I think that's going to spell trouble for them because, in the waning moments, as you are, trying to close a gap, the pass rush for Tampa Bay, not only is it, do they have, the players like Shaq Barrett, but they have depth now. Some of the younger guys they got in this draft, I think can make an impact with, with the fresh legs late here. Dak Prescott, not expecting him to necessarily try to break out of the pocket, not expecting him to try to use mobility really in any way. And so if he is sitting in collapsed pockets on the obvious passing downs late in this game, I think Tampa Bay has the edge there.
Tampa Bay allowed 327 yards per game, sixth best in the league last season. Obviously, you talked about defensive players. Excited to see how Devin White performs in this one. Just taking a look at the handle right now over at PointsBet, the Bucs getting 67% of the spread handle at that 7.5. The Cowboys 33%. The total, meanwhile, 75% of the money coming in on the under. Any thoughts on the total and what you make of it now at 52, Drew?
I think you missed your chance to get the correct side in this one, which was the over. Most of the sharp money came in on Tampa Bay at 6.5 and at over at 50.5. And while the Zach Martin injury actually, I'm surprised the market didn't react more significantly in favor of Tampa Bay, although obviously you're out past 7. So moving to 8.5, not huge in terms of difference in value there. But to see the over continue to tick up, even in his absence, was surprising, I think. And, there must be some, there's some high confidence, at least in the market, that, the rest of that offensive line will make up for Zach's absence and or some of the like La'el Collins is back at practice. Connor Williams is back at practice. They're going to have 4 decent guys out there. If they can make up the difference there and at least, be somewhat cohesive, then this over does absolutely scream to be the right side.
Super excited for this one. We'll continue to break down Thursday Night Football throughout the week leading up to kickoff. And I'm really excited not only for betting this game, but Daily Fantasy is back, baby. That's right. I'm excited for that. Not only Daily Fantasy, we're in the middle of fantasy football drafting season, getting really close here. Be ready with the perfect companion, an NBC Sports Edge Plus subscription. Get draft guides, player projections, rankings, and more to gain an edge this season. Type the code in Sarah15. You will get 15% off any annual subscription.
Yeah, and I just did my fantasy football draft. I used the tools. It was extremely, extremely helpful. I cannot tell you enough how important it is to be prepared for this sort of thing. You do not want 2 weeks into the season for your season-long fantasy to be over. So, of course, sign up now. Save 15% if you use code Drew15.
Yeah, Sarah15 or Drew15. How'd your team come out, by the way?
Excellent. I was extremely happy. I only made one mistake. I took Cooper Kupp instead of Kyle Pitts. I really feel like I made a mistake there because Kyle Pitts, I think, is going to have just an outstanding season.
Yeah, I'm a little biased with Kyle Pitts. I'm a big fan of his, but not to mention, I think if that's your biggest mistake, you're in really nice, good company with your team because I love Cooper Kupp as well, especially for his fantasy outlook for this season. And big thanks to John Daigle for his help on these draft guides for NBC Sports Edge because his work helped out Drew's team and my fantasy team as well. John, thanks so much for taking the time on this Labor Day Monday to break down NFL Week 1 lines. You heard us talk about the Cowboys and the Buccaneers, and there's a few other games I know that you like, and we're all sort of targeting and finding the right way to handicap them. And John, I begin with Arizona playing Tennessee in Nashville, Tennessee laying 3. This total now sitting at 52. I take a look at the edge projection always when we look at these games, and there's confidence just a little bit on the under 52. But you look at the Titans defense last year, 5th worst in both offenses for Arizona and Tennessee, coming off top 6 offensive numbers last season. So when we look at these two new teams for the 2021 season, Arizona, Tennessee, how do you handicap week 1?
One, Sarah, don't feel bad about not grabbing the 7 with the Bucks because I also incorrectly missed it. So we are in that same boat together.
That makes me feel better. I have no option but the teaser. Yeah. I have no option.
Same for me. 2, speaking of this game in particular, I'm excited because 1, both teams lack star power on defense. And more importantly, it's the return of a Cardinals offense that if you had read the draft guide quarterback tiers, I even wrote in particular about Kyler Murray, averaged 29 fantasy points per game, 6 design runs per game, until he actually crunched his throwing shoulder in week 11 in the first quarter against the Seahawks. And from that point forward, 11 fantasy points per game fewer, also dipped to just under 4 scrambles per game. So basically everything that got him to that point as the QB1 in fantasy to that point, he stopped doing because he was injured. But now that he gets this Tennessee defense that replaced Adoree Jackson, Malcolm Butler, Desmond King, with talented guys like Bud Dupree and Caleb Farley, the first-round quarterback, except those guys are still mending. They're still practically injured. And so I genuinely think it's a return of the explosive offense that we probably already forgot about since it's been so long since we saw them against a Tennessee defense that can't keep up with them, but at the same time we know can score points.
That's an interesting angle, and I guess that it has been interesting to see Tennessee tick up over the course of the summer from 2.5 to 3. So somebody obviously felt like having the hook was going to be somewhat important here. I can't make a case for laying the 3 with this Tennessee team just because with the loss of Art Smith, we don't exactly know that Tennessee is going to run the plus CV offense that we saw from them for a lot of the balance of last season. Still in the back of my head, Art Smith was so important in terms of making Tennessee just one of the most dangerous red zone teams in the NFL. They all of a sudden stumble a little bit in the red zone early in the season, I won't be shocked. So something to keep a look for there. As we move to what I think is the most interesting and important game, at least from sort of shaking out who will ultimately be our champion this year in the NFL, I want to talk a little bit about Kansas City versus Cleveland Browns. This is effectively a preview, in my opinion, of what we're going to get in the AFC Championship game. These are your 2 most talented teams. Kansas City, obviously led by the best quarterback in the NFL in Pat Mahomes. And Cleveland with a completely revamped defense coming in with a point to prove, having lost their last game of the playoffs in Kansas City. So we return to the scene of their divisional defeat with a completely revamped defense. And actually, to talk a little bit about that Cleveland game from last season, they were 8-point underdogs, I believe. So we've made an adjustment here for about 2 points. And some of that is obviously because Kansas City was coming off a bye. Cleveland was not quite fully healthy in that game. Do you think they have more of a puncher's chance here now that they are coming in at full strength and this is, sort of a point to prove?
Well, you make a point, and that's why I wanted to actually get a roundtable going about this game. I think it's so interesting. And to your point, everything you said about the Chiefs coming off the bye, the Browns being banged up, like that's why the Chiefs had 4 possessions and scored on the first 4, which resulted in a 19-3 lead at the half. And from that point, the Browns are out of their element. They're just playing the wrong offense that they weren't built for. And so it was just a weird game to begin with. But I also think recency bias regarding Kansas City's offense and lack of pass pro in the Super Bowl, which is the last time we saw them and any meaningful football from them, has overshadowed the fact that also the Chiefs bolstered their O-line immensely. That game last year against the Browns happened, of course, without starting right tackle Mitchell Schwartz. They lost Eric Fisher the following week. But overall, just to upgrade across their offensive line, 4 new starters that they add via trade, like Orlando Brown, or in free agency, Joe Thuney also adding 2 rookies to the O-line. So the upgrades, albeit immense to Cleveland's defensive unit, kind of, for me, wash out against Kansas City's O-line upgrades. And I actually think the most important question becomes, can the Browns punch back when and if they don't stop the Chiefs offense? And that's what I'm curious to get your takes on, because I think they can, since all of those anomalies happened in that last game, but maybe not. I don't know.
I'm not sure if I'm calling the upset alert, but I love Cleveland plus the points in this one. I know it's on the road. I know home field advantage is extremely back, especially this season in a place like Kansas City. But I love Cleveland and the points. And Drew and I talked a little bit about this on our show last week or 2 weeks ago, not only with their help on defense. We talk about Jadeveon Clowney and so many other players like Myles Garrett that I think are going to be a huge difference maker on both sides of the ball, obviously. But I just think about this team with Kevin Stefanski, another year for Baker Mayfield in this system. I think they only got better, and I think Kansas City got better as well, but the difference is more confidence in their quarterback and their head coach. And ultimately, I go with the defense being able to slow down Kansas City a little bit last year, like we saw, unfortunate towards the ending of that 8-point spread, but there was a 6.5. I grabbed them both. I like Cleveland to cover this one. I lean under because the defense for Cleveland, hoping that they'll be able to figure that out, but I have not played anything on the total in this one, Drew.
Yeah, I'm on Cleveland +6 here, and I was hoping we would see 7. I was waiting patiently all summer to try to get a 7. It's not going to come. In fact, there was a little 6.5, that was tickling the market, and people snapped it up. So if this moves at all between now and kickoff, it's probably just going to be indexed and staying at 6 here. And realistically, Cleveland's ability to score in this game, I think, was going to come down to what their offensive philosophy is, and I have a ton of confidence in Kevin Stefanski running a plus EV type of system here. Kansas City, in investing so much in their offensive line this offseason, I think to a degree they looked past some other issues with this roster, namely wide receiver 2 and some of the secondary pieces who are they're kind of recycling guys who haven't really proven to make it at the NFL level. So I think there are going to be ways to attack this team, particularly with some misdirection, and Stefanski is exactly the guy to do that. So, and again, like I've put so much futures action down on Cleveland at this point that I'm basically counting on an upset.
We've showed a lot of Cleveland love on this show.
Yeah.
Seriously, we have.
The Browns and the 49ers are definitely the unofficial team of Bet the Edge, for sure.
Without a doubt. Well, yeah. I will say, if you just look at the spread handle in terms of that 6, the Chiefs taking 75% of the money, and the Browns obviously just 25%. The total 77% coming in on the over. I'll have to talk to Jay this week, but I'm pretty sure PointsBet will be rooting for the under in that game, now sitting at 53. Okay, one more game I got to get your opinion on. I teased it at the beginning of the show. Chicago and Los Angeles. I have no idea what to do with this game, the total or the side. I look at the Rams now laying 7.5. I'm excited to see Matt Stafford, and we joke it's Andy Dalton's time. I don't know what to make of this Bears defense other than I think they're going to struggle in this one. The total sitting at 44.
It's the hook that's really interesting. That, and it's a company game, but it's the hook that's really interesting in the betting wise in this game. For Andy Dalton, the Bears offense, I am concerned. They had 9 preseason possessions with Dalton under center. 5 of those resulted in a punt. 2 of them resulted in a turnover, and their 1 touchdown to 73-yard score was in the mid-second quarter when the third-string defense was on the field already. So I am concerned. Also, even in drafting Tevin Jenkins, their under-the-radar release of Charles Leno at right tackle was, for cap reasons, is what they cited, but it basically was an irresponsible transaction by an irrational organization. Made no sense at all, even at the time. And so now they're stuck with 2 rookies at starting tackles with a 33-year-old quarterback who is fresh off a career low 5.5 yards per attempt with a better unit last year than what he's surrounded with this year. So it's very concerning. For the Rams, though, that's what becomes interesting because we don't know the offense. Even so, just in adding Sony Michel to give another element to a passing game, I do believe in Darrell Henderson, but Sean McVay clearly does not. The fact that Goff the past 2 seasons averaged just 7 air yards per attempt, not a downfield thrower. And as we know, whenever structure breaks down, Goff breaks down with it. That's not the case for Stafford. Stafford can use every inch of the field. So just to see the Rams offense, the question I have is, can they cover the 7.5? I believe they can because I have so much worries about Aaron Donald eating the souls of all 5 offensive linemen single-handedly and just getting to Dalton with ease throughout the evening.
Yeah, Dalton is not a guy that performs well under pressure at all throughout his career. And we saw that in clear contrast last year with the Cowboys once they had that run of offensive line injuries. So yeah, that is, I think, the distinguishing factor in this one. I played the under at 45.5. I would still play it at 44. I think my fair here is 42.5, and 44 is a key number as far as totals go. These are 2 teams that I want to fade both of them. I mean, it's realistically, I think the Rams are wildly overrated by the market at this point as we head into the season. But I can't possibly make a case for Chicago and Andy Dalton considering the state of that franchise, really. I'm hopeful that their defense at least shows up and keeps the Rams under 40 points, and then I think my under is live.
That's exactly what I think. Well, 60% of the money is coming in on the under along with your play. We talked a little bit about that, and I got that from you. I also have the under in this one. I think the fact that it ticked down does say something. I would not be surprised. That was of this morning. It went down to 44. To see that tick down just a little bit, seeing as your fair price is 42.5 in the matchup. We'll see if Chicago can score, and hopefully the LA can kind of, take it in for the second half and get some rest. Hey, John, before we let you go, I know you have a really exciting daily fantasy show coming up for NBC Sports Edge. Tell us a little bit about it.
Every Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, the DFS Building Block Show, not only live on YouTube and Twitch, but this year also, if you just happen to miss it on Friday night, which you should not, it will also be in your podcast feeds on Saturday morning with myself and Kyle Dvorchak. The one decision point we will talk at the beginning of the show, because it's going to get a lot of exposure, is the Vikings-Bengals game. And can the Bengals carry their weight against the Vikings? Because if so, that is a extremely intriguing shootout. If not, it's a very good spot to basically overweight yourself with Dalvin Cook. So we will kick off the show with that.
I look forward to watching that every week. I love daily fantasy, and that does also help, of course, with our player props and everything we bet into, not just fantasy as well. All right, John, thank you so much as always. Check out John on Twitter at NotJDaigle. Check out all of his in-depth NFL analysis and everything for fantasy on NBCSportsEdge.com. I look forward to the show and talking with you soon. Thanks, John.
Enjoy vacation, Drew. Sarah, I wish we had you in Vegas, but nonetheless, we'll see you soon.
I'm upset. Everyone's in Vegas this weekend except me because I'm on the East Coast and it's tough to get out there and we got a lot of work to do. But that's okay. I'll have to rely on you and Daigle taking care of business out there. We appreciate you guys listening to Bet the Edge. Wherever you're listening, make sure to rate the podcast. Of course, sign up. We're trying to give you the most actionable information in 30 minutes or less every single weekday. And these lines, I'm not just saying that like I always do, are moving ridiculously quickly. I feel like this season so far, the NFL season lines have been absurd and moving really quick. So we want to make sure you're gaining an edge with us here.
Yeah, it's crazy. People have been messaging me, what have you played for week one? What have you played? A lot of them, I can't even post at this point. Like,
it's insane.
I can't in good conscience say, hey, Tampa Bay -6.5. I played it at -112. You can get it now at like, I don't know, -150 or something.
It's like -180 at this point for the 6.5.
Yeah. It's ship has sailed. But no, in seriousness, it was an incredible weekend of college football. It is important to go now and update all your rankings and kind of, reevaluate some of your priors for these teams, having now seen them play a real game. If you saw something interesting out there in the college football handicapping space and you want to pass along a good word, you can find me on Twitter at @whale_capper or reach out to @Sarah Perlman.
I saw something interesting. It was Wisconsin and Penn State, and I'm not placing a bet on either one of those teams the rest of the season. If I try coming on the show and talking about those, say, shut up, Sarah. That's what I want you to say, Drew. Okay, but in all seriousness, we end the show on this Monday with Edge of the Day. So Drew can hopefully, he's a good guy working on vacation, which credit to Drew in all seriousness, coming on to help us with our plays. But Drew, Edge of the Day, so you can go enjoy the last day of your vacation.
Well, week 2 of the U.S. Open starts today. So I absolutely have to come back at it with the tennis handicap today.
Yes.
And honestly, this the night match, or not really the night match, but the final match on the order of play among the women's side of the bracket is, in my opinion, your de facto title. This is a matchup between up-and-coming Greek player Maria Sakkari. She has yet to really make the leap and be, on the same footing with the elite women on tour. But this could be her time. She is taking on a former champion in Bianca Vanessa Andreescu. This was kind of a shocking line, honestly, to see. She opened as a small favorite, and she has taken gobs of money. She has been bet out to -160 right now at PointsBet. When I saw the opener and I saw Andreescu, she was about +106, and I thought about it at the time to pull the trigger on Bianca, just because she is playing out a form that I think is notable, and we have not seen this form from her since her layoff, really. I mean, and the year that she won the U.S. Open, she picked up some injuries towards the end of that year. She ended up taking off a full year and a half, basically, to try to recuperate and get her fitness back. She showed some signs this year, I thought, in Miami, notably in Miami in the semifinals. She beat Sakkari head-to-head in a very close competition. And I saw her at +106, and I thought to myself that was a fair price. I have her a little bit over 50% to win this match. And now to see it at +125, in some places +130, was kind of shocking. The market is against me on this one significantly. However, I do think the pedigree that comes along with being a former champion matters when you're at the Grand Slam level, matters when you're on center court, matters when, this is effectively a title on the line, because whoever wins this match is going to be market favorite to lift the cup. And I think that's going to be Bianca Vanessa Andreescu.
Well, you could think the market either went away from you or maybe you just waited and got the perfect number to jump in. And for your tennis plays, I side with the latter. The best number got away before the show started for my play edge of the day. It's Labor Day. We got a ton of day baseball games, looked across the board, and ultimately, this is my favorite play. I'm taking the Tampa Bay Rays on the money line. I played this at plus 130. I looked this morning plus 125, and ultimately, we begin the show and it's plus 115. So they are getting some steam as we get ready for the first pitch today. People saw the Tampa Bay Rays facing the Red Sox, and there's a few things that stand out about this game. Red Sox have a ton of players on the COVID list right now, 11 players. The main names that stand out to me, Xander Bogaerts, Kiki Hernandez, Martin Perez, Nick Pivetta. But what's most important for this game is going to be their closer in Matt Barnes. I know they have Ottavino, but Matt Barnes was their closer. He's not available. We have Ryan Yarbrough and Chris Sale. Both of these pitchers just faced these exact opponents last week. I gave a strikeout prop last week in this game. I'm going back to the same one, except it's in Boston. I look at Chris Sale, who just allowed 2 runs in his last game against the Rays. But ultimately, I like Yarbrough in this one because he was really bad against the Red Sox. In his last outing, he kind of reversed this trend, figured them out a little bit. He was really good, gave up just 2 runs in his last game against the Red Sox. But look at the offenses. This is a mismatch as well. Both are top 10 in WOBA and WRC plus this season. Tampa, second best in the league against lefties right now. That stands out against Chris Sale. Also, Tampa Bay, best bullpen, best ERA in the league. And as I mentioned earlier, Boston is missing their closer and key players, with Matt Barnes being one of them. Rays, one of the best teams in the league, 7-3 in their last 10 against Boston. At plus 120 is where I kind of put the fair price, but I still like it at plus 115. I'm surprised they're the rare underdog in this spot, and I will side with the better team having more things going for them offensively with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, Tampa Bay continues to be criminally underpriced. This team just will not go away. They are better than the market thinks in pretty much every way. And I got to say, I watched a lot of that Sale outing last time. It didn't look like he had his best stuff. And so I don't mind going up against him, especially at the price.
Yeah, they pressed him a little bit. It's the right price, and the Tampa Bay Rays have been so good against lefties this season. Enjoy your Labor Day. Do not forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com. You'll have so much information to help you with both your wagers and your fantasy football team. Thanks for watching us here on our NBC Sports Edge YouTube channel. If you're not, subscribe, rate the podcast. Enjoy your Labor Day. For Drew Dinsick, I am Sarah Perlman. Good luck with all of your wagers. We'll see you tomorrow.